Hey there! In Italy, bread is super important. It's like a part of the family. It's a special thing that brings people together. Every Italian meal has a basket of fresh, crispy bread. Just the smell makes you feel like you're in a busy Italian kitchen. Today, we're going to make that magic happen in your own home. Ready to bake? Let's go! Before we start baking, let's get our stuff ready. Baking is an art, and like any artist, a baker needs to have all their tools and materials in place before they begin. This ensures that the process goes smoothly and efficiently. So, let's gather everything we need. We need flour. 500 grams of strong bread flour. This makes our bread nice and strong. The type of flour you use can greatly affect the texture and flavor of your bread. Strong bread flour has a higher protein content, which helps create that perfect chewy texture we all love in a good loaf of bread. Yeast. 1 packet or 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast. This is the magic stuff that makes the bread big and fluffy. Yeast is a living organism that ferments the dough, producing carbon dioxide gas that makes the dough rise. Without it, our bread would be flat and dense. Water. 325 milliliters of lukewarm water. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. The temperature of the water is crucial because it activates the yeast. If the water is too hot, it can kill the yeast, and if it's too cold, the yeast won't activate properly. Lukewarm water is perfect for getting the yeast to do its job. Salt. 10 grams of salt. Just a little bit to make it taste even better. Salt not only adds flavor to the bread, but also helps to control the fermentation process. It strengthens the gluten structure, making the dough more elastic and easier to work with. Olive oil. 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. This adds flavor and makes it smooth. Olive oil also helps to keep the bread moist and extends its shelf life. The type of olive oil you use can add a subtle yet distinct flavor to your bread, making it even more delicious. Measure everything carefully. Baking is like a science project. Precision is key in baking. Unlike cooking, where you can often improvise, baking requires exact measurements to ensure the right chemical reactions occur. This is what transforms a simple mixture of ingredients into a beautiful, delicious loaf of bread. So take your time, measure accurately, and enjoy the process. In a big bowl, sprinkle the yeast over the warm water. Add a tiny bit of sugar. Let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. The yeast needs to wake up. You'll see bubbles on top when it's ready. That means the yeast is alive and ready to work. Now, add the flour and salt to the yeast mixture. Mix it all up with a big spoon. When it starts to look like a shaggy dough, add the olive oil. Keep mixing until everything is blended. You don't need to knead it yet, just mix it all together. Put the dough on a lightly floured surface. This is where our journey begins with a simple yet essential step. The flour acts as a barrier, preventing the dough from sticking to the surface and your hands. It's the foundation of our dance, setting the stage for what's to come. Now the real fun starts. Kneading is not just a mechanical process. It's an art form. It's where you connect with the dough, feeling its texture change under your hands. The warmth of your hands helps to activate the yeast, making the dough more pliable and ready to rise. Knead the dough for about 10 minutes. Push, fold, and turn. This rhythmic motion is crucial. It's like a dance where each move has a purpose. Pushing helps to develop the gluten, folding traps air, and turning ensures even distribution of ingredients. This makes the gluten strong, which makes the bread chewy. Gluten is the protein that gives bread its structure. As you knead, you're aligning the gluten strands, creating a network that will trap the gases produced by the yeast. This is what gives bread its chewy texture and helps it rise. The dough should become smooth and stretchy. You'll notice a transformation as you knead. The dough will go from a sticky, lumpy mass to a smooth, elastic ball. This is a sign that the gluten has developed properly. You can test this by stretching a small piece of dough. It should stretch without tearing. Make it into a ball and put it in a greased bowl, turning it to coat. This step is important to prevent the dough from drying out and sticking to the bowl. The greased bowl also makes it easier to remove the dough after it has risen. Cover the bowl with a clean towel. This creates a warm, humid environment that is ideal for the yeast to work. The towel also protects the dough from drafts and contaminants. Let it rise in a warm place for about an hour or until it doubles in size. This is the fermentation stage, where the yeast ferments the sugars in the dough, producing carbon dioxide and alcohol. The carbon dioxide gets trapped in the gluten network, causing the dough to expand. This is where the magic happens. Watching the dough rise is like witnessing a miracle. It's a testament to the power of time and the work of the yeast. The dough will become airy and light, ready to be shaped and baked. The yeast is working hard, making air bubbles and flavor. These bubbles are what give the bread its light, airy texture. The fermentation process also develops the flavor, giving the bread a complex, rich taste. Each bubble is a tiny pocket of flavor, a result of the yeast's hard work. Gently press down on the dough to let the air out. This step is crucial as it helps to create a uniform texture in the final loaf. Once the air is pressed out, cut the dough in half using a sharp knife or a dough cutter. This will make it easier to shape and handle. Shape each half into a loaf. You can do this by gently stretching and folding the dough, tucking the edges underneath to create tension on the surface. This tension helps the loaf hold its shape during baking. You can make it round or long, it's up to you. A round loaf, also known as a boule, is great for rustic presentations, while a long loaf or battered is perfect for sandwiches. Experiment with different shapes to find your favorite. Put the loaves on a baking sheet with parchment paper. The parchment paper prevents sticking and makes cleanup easier. Make sure to leave enough space between the loaves so they can expand during baking. Cover them with the towel again and let them rise for another 30 minutes. This resting period allows the dough to relax and expand, which is essential for achieving a light and airy texture in the final product. This second rise makes sure the bread is light and airy. The dough will almost double in size, and you'll notice a delicate, pillowy texture. This is a sign that the yeast has done its job, creating a network of air pockets that will give the bread its characteristic fluffiness. Time to bake. Heat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 200 degrees Celsius. Before baking, make a few cuts on top of each loaf with a sharp knife. This lets the steam escape while baking. Bake the bread for about 30 to 35 minutes or until the loaves are golden brown and sound hollow when you tap them. The amazing smell will fill your kitchen. Take the bread out of the oven and let it cool completely on a wire rack. I know it's hard to wait, but it's important. Cooling lets the bread finish cooking inside and prevents it from getting soggy. Once it's cool, slice the bread with a serrated knife. Serve your fresh bread with a little olive oil and a sprinkle of sea salt. It's so good. Or enjoy it with your favorite Italian food. Use it to dip in pasta sauce, make a sandwich, or just eat it with cheese. Buon appetito! You did it! You baked beautiful Italian bread. Homemade bread just tastes better. It's made with love and you can taste it in every bite. Don't forget to tell us about your baking. Subscribe for more yummy recipes and tips. Happy baking!